Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Vietnam War. Finally, I'm Mike B, and today we're going to be talking about something that is very near and dear to me today as I'm in dire need of a haircut. We're going to be talking about the haircut regulations and kind of what the hair would have looked like, hairstyles and whatever during the Vietnam War for U.S. service members. So basically the regulations, I don't know exactly when they came out, it's kind of sketchy as far as finding accurate information on when the regs actually started, coming out, and the ones that look similar to the ones today actually went into effect. So I don't really have that information. I do know, based on reading a bunch of personal accounts, kind of facts, books that are nonfiction and stuff like that, and actually talking to vets that were there. Depending on your job and where you were at, really was what affected your hair length, style, and all that stuff. So basically, I'm just going to break this down into a few little sections. First, we're going to start with combat arms, so infantry, medic, cab scouts, armor, all that stuff. Generally speaking, when you were in garrison, you would have a regulation haircut, which means very short on the sides and less than I think 2 or 3 inches on the top. Usually you had to look very, very prim and proper when you were in garrison, very similar to today. However, a lot of the times when infantry specifically would go out for weeks at a time in the field, they'd either bring these little the hand clippers that weren't electric or whatever, the old school ones, and they'd either get their hair buzzed or cut real short before they went out due to hygiene reasons, like bugs and stuff, and just it's a lot cooler to temperature wise to have your hair short when you're out there in the humidity and the heat. So you will see a lot of guys though actually out in the field, like in the earlier years, like 64 through 68, we'll say. They've been out in the field for a while and they'll be relatively clean shaven, right? They might have a 5 o'clock shadow, even though you were supposed to shave every single day and you did usually out in the field. But you would have seen them actually, some guys coming out of the field, I've seen pictures and videos after weeks and that maybe their clippers broke or they didn't bring them or whatever, or they stayed out longer than they're expected and they're gonna have hair about as long as mine right now. Of course, when you get back and you get issued new uniforms and you clean your equipment and everything, you're also expected to get a haircut. So my hair right now is technically like something that you would see from guys coming out of the field after 3-4 weeks out there getting resupply drops and all that stuff, but not really getting anything to be able to cut their hair. So that's that. Other than that, you're really not going to see a lot of super long hair until you get to about 1969 or 70, and people just kind of stopped caring about really the regulations and just the war in general. This is not a blanket statement. This is not everything. This is all unit dependent, SOP dependent, how much the commanders were going to enforce the regulations and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. But you do see a lot more facial hair, like mustaches. Beards weren't allowed except for the Navy. I've seen a few pictures of Navy personnel in country, not even in the fleet, but in country, on boots on ground, doing stuff, and they have beards on, or not on, but you know what I'm saying, they have beards on their faces. It was very interesting that the Navy kind of allowed that. I think they might be going back to that too, but irrelevant. So yeah, you weren't allowed to have facial hair, but you see a lot of mustaches, right? And the military says it can't go out past your lips, and it has to be a certain width and all that stuff. Very similar to today. But you see people pushing the envelope quite a bit from about 69 on, when the attitude kind of changed. And I've done other kind of videos that explains that a little bit, but obviously this series is endless, so I'll probably cover that eventually. The difference between the Army from about 64 to 68 until basically the Tet Offensive of 68. After that, it was like a different military, way different attitude towards the war. It was very more intensely anti-war back home. Before Tet of 68, you had the anti-war movement, but it wasn't really taking off really until that point when it was like, holy crap, why are we here? So that's where you're going to see the hairstyles kind of getting to be more pushing the boundaries and even out of regulations. After late 1968 to 69, you'll see that a lot, even with guys in garrison. I've talked to some people, they said, yeah, I grew my hair out, and they yelled at me, but what are they going to do? And some people were forced to get their hair cut and blah, blah, blah. So nothing really has changed in that respect. But yeah, it's very interesting to see that some of these guys come back from the field, they're clean shaven, but they've got long, you know, kind of dirty hair and stuff. And then most of the guys that were in garrison, or when these infantry or combat arms guys got back to garrison or wherever they were stationed or based at, yep, they got a regulation haircut, and then before they go out in the field, they either buzz it or, you know, get a really short cut. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I actually had a few people ask me about this, because if you see pictures of, and it kind of correlates with what I just said about TED 68. You see pre-68 pictures, and most of the guys are going to have regulation dues on. And then afterwards, you're going to see a little bit longer, kind of, you know, the style back home was obviously longer at that point, into the 70s as well. So it's pretty interesting. I actually think it's a pretty cool topic, because it kind of shows the socio-political stuff bleeding over into the military, and people just kind of turning a blind eye to it a lot of times. Now, I know that it was SOP dependent. Some units, man, you were going to get your hair cut regardless, and you were going to keep it short, you were going to do this, you were going to do that. Other units are going to be a lot more lax. It's the military, that's the way it goes. Some units get away with shit that no other unit's going to be able to get away with, and vice versa, and you know, you name it. So basically, there's no clear-cut answer to the question. It's very subjective, down to the unit level and actually the individual level. So yeah, mustaches, pretty cool. You see a lot of the pilots and stuff, they'd have out of reg mustaches for the Army and Marines, and I mean, who's gonna really give them shit? So that's pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, whatever. So yeah, most of the guys that I've talked to, they said they kept their hair short anyway because it was really hot, and I totally get that and can relate to that. So that's another reason to keep it short. But you know, when you start bringing that socio-political stuff into the military from back home, you really start seeing the longer shaggy hair like this. So very interesting stuff. I appreciate you watching. Let me know what you think. If you got any questions, I'll try to answer them. I'm by no means an expert. I'm just going off of what people have told me. Vietnam vets have told me. Lots of people have told me this. I'm telling you, the best people. Anyway, no, they physically told me that, hey, I had my hair long at this point, and then reading nonfiction like history books and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, that's all I've got really. Thanks for watching this video. I'm pretty happy to get this series going again. I kind of took a couple months break to get some things in order, but getting back into Vietnam pretty hard. So I'll be doing some more really cool videos. So stay tuned for that. And if you consider, check out the links in the description to support the channel in my online store or Patreon. That'd be really cool, because then we can do some really cool things. And that'll actually, Patreon will help me fund trips and stuff to travel, or, you know, pay vets to come up to my location, like gas money or whatever, and do interviews, which is something I'm wanting to do here pretty soon. So yeah, Patreon would be really cool if you could support me on there. If not, that's totally fine. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next video.